The space is called the Scuola di Batte Oro and Tira Oro, which means that it's a school for glass workers, gold leafing and metal work. It was built in 1711, and it continued to be a guild, or a sort of a clubhouse for the gold workers. So it seemed perfect for this exhibition because, well, you know, honey is like gold.
This is one of your seminal pieces, though you have had many exhibitions here in Venice through the years. Why don't you tell us about this piece, which of course looks like honeycomb, but in fact it has soundtrack behind it, and it's also made out of glass. Gold glass at that.
Actually, it's porcelain and gold leaf and resin and beeswax, and each little pod, each cell, is made one at a time, the same way that the honeybees make their homes, their hives. It's exactly the same process in a way, because it's made one cell at a time. And it's a human scale beehive. It's called Monumental Hive. You can go inside if you sort of duck underneath, and yeah, that would be nice to film. And it has two little iPods inside, bees buzzing and birds chirping, because it's about nature.
Tell me, Judy, these are real bees?
No, those are glass honeybees, and when you work with glass, everything has to be heated at exactly the same temperature, be able to be heated at the same temperature in the furnace. So you have to use glass with glass, or real gold, or real silver. And this particular piece has small glass honeybees inside that I made.
You are also a painter?
Yes, that was why I have a master's in fine art in painting and sculpture.
You had an exhibition, I believe, in 2008, and can you tell us about that? The exhibition that you had several years ago.
In Venice?
In Venice.
It was in 2006, and it was at the Café Florian. It was for the Biennale of Architecture. And I built a satellite called, well, it was based on Telstar, which was the first communication satellite. And the reason for that is that people communicate now with handheld devices, thanks to this particular satellite, Telstar, which is now around 50 years old. But it would be much better if people communicated face-to-face or through art or dancing the way the bees do. So I made this satellite to remind people to communicate in any case, but better face-to-face if it's possible.
I see you have that not only this exhibition is called Denatured, Honeybees and Murano, but you have a section called Renatured, which I find fascinating.
Thank you.
Can you elaborate on Renatured?
Well, the idea behind most of my work, I think it's probably all of my work, is the fact that if you bring attention to something that is maybe on the verge of extinction, as I did in 2001 with the rhinoceros, and comparing it to Teatro La Fenice and Venice in general, the idea is that if people pay attention to things like the honeybees and Murano glass and realize if we lose them, that we're losing something of beauty that cannot be reproduced again. I mean, people try to reproduce Venice and Venetian glass all over the world, but really we know there's really only one Venice. The same thing with honey and with the honeybees. It's a big loss if we were to lose them. So I'm trying to bring attention to those two colonies that are on the verge of extinction.
One last question I want to ask you before we close. You are very involved with Bees Without Borders.
Yes.
Can you tell us about Bees Without Borders?
Bees Without Borders is a non-profit organization founded by Andrew Cote, who was a beekeeper in New York and Connecticut, who I worked with for many years. And they bring their knowledge of beekeeping, which is fourth generation beekeeping, to other parts of the world that perhaps are impoverished or need to know how to survive and sustain their families. And through beekeeping, obviously pollination is one of the key elements, and people can grow food and take care of their families and raise honey and honeybees forever. It's not something that's just one season. So once they start raising the bees and have the pollination and have the food, they're able to survive. So
Are bees becoming so extinct throughout the world now?
we lose 50 million bees a day, Andrea. That's a lot. And that is probably an underestimate. It's mainly from pesticides, also, as I mentioned, from stress, but it's not something that can't be fixed. And I hope this exhibition will bring attention to those two colonies, the Murano glassworkers, the beekeepers, the honeybees, and the beauty of Murano glass in general. And, honey has many healing properties, and the bees are a wonderful, wonderful subject to study. I've been on it 7 years. I don't see any end in sight yet, but,
I so believe in you. I've known you for so many years. And I know the amount of work. I've just come from Warren. I've just come from where we're taking a look at these photos, and we saw the video downstairs. It's an extraordinary exhibition. And I'd like to buy every single piece that's downstairs.
that would be great.
I'm happy with this and it's just extraordinary.
You want to try to go inside? Go inside. You duck under from the front.
I can go inside.
Yeah, right here.
Where?
There's like a little door. You have to duck in.
I will.
Please.
I will. Oh, no.
The queen bee. Now stand up. Don't you feel like a queen?
Oh my, I am the queen bee for the day.
Totally.
Oh, Judy, thank you. This is really extraordinary.
You see, there is a queen at the top.
I had no idea. How long did it take you to...
It took about 6 months. I worked inside it and outside at the same time.
Yes.
Well, it took 6 months altogether, I would say. I mean, I didn't really count it because after making the shape, and I hung it from the ceiling of my studio, I put on the porcelain one cell at a time, and then the beeswax, and then the gold leaf, and then the resin.
Yes.
So it was, long process. But the reality is that all of the materials are fragile, but when they're combined, they make a very strong structure, exactly like a beehive. So it doesn't weigh much. I mean, maybe it weighs 75 pounds, but it is, rather large, huh?
Well, it's fabulous. Your entire exhibition is. I thank you very much for giving me the time and being such a wonderful friend and extraordinary artist.
Well, thank you, Andrea. Thank you for coming and for being the queen bee. Perfect.